I activate Numeral Network. Numeral Network lets me send one Numeron spell from my deck to my graveyard to activate its effect. So I'm going to send Numeron Call-In. Numeron Call-In, if I control no monsters, I can special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate XYZs. I'm going to play around your Nibiru, so I'm only going to summon out 3. There we go. I'm then going to use all 3 of these to overlay and go into Utopic ZEXAL.
Oh, what are you going to do now, big boy?
The duel's over.
During your standby phase, I'm going to activate Utopic ZEXAL to shut off your effects for the entire turn.
Do it.
Chain Infinite Impermanence, shutting your ZEXAL off for the entire turn.
Damn!
What's up YouTube, Dell here from ZEXAL Wargames. I hope you like that little opening skit. It's just something to show you not to worry. So today's video is exactly as you saw. How do you deal with the 1-card combo of Numeron Network into Numeron Call-In into 3 to 4 Numeron monsters and of course a Utopic ZEXAL, which is going to lock you out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For an entire turn. Well, there are many options, do not worry about that. Some are budget, some are a little bit more expensive, but they are all going to be useful for you to combat the Utopic ZEXAL engine. And that's the worst thing about it is a very, very small engine of 3 network, 1 call-in, and then maybe a terraforming plus a set rotation depending on how bad they need to get to the card. And then what Utopic ZEXAL does is, if you do not know, it requires 3 number monsters with the same rank. These are all rank 1. And you can also XYZ by discarding a rank up magic spell. This XYZ summon card cannot be negated. When XYZ summoned, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated. It gains 1000 attack and defense for each XYZ material attached to it. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, detach 1 XYZ from this card. Your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated this turn. So, what you've got to keep in mind straight off of that thing is when it is XYZ summoned, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated. So you can't negate its summon is basically what that's saying. But then what you're looking at is that during your turn, it will detach a material at any point. It is a quick effect, so it can do it as early as possible. And your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated this turn. That includes your spells, your traps, and your monsters. So it is a little bit more dangerous than a VFD. Now, I'm going to quickly go through the combo. You should have seen it in the opening kind of video, but literally all it is Numeron Network, send Numeron Call-In from your deck to the graveyard, and then special summon 3 or 4, it depends if you want to play into Nibiru or not, but you can play under Nibiru, summon 3 of these, overlay them all into a Utopic ZEXAL with 3 materials, so it is a 3k beta that is going to be locking your opponent out for at least 3 turns. Now obviously the one thing the ZEXAL doesn't do is it doesn't stop your opponent from attacking, so if you get a monster on board that's 1,000, 2,000 or 3,000 more, you just clear it off, but the chances are it'll probably finish you off before you get to that opportunity or to that point. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it step by step of the combo and when you can interrupt, when you can stop and what you use. So, we'll start right at the beginning and we'll start with Numeron Network. So when your opponent activates Numeron Network, it does 2 things. It activates separately, so it's not an on activation effect, so it can be hit with Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre can hit this and it will destroy it, meaning that it will no longer resolve for Numeron Call-In. So that is one thing that you need to keep in mind. It does send us cost, but because it is continuous, it won't resolve on field afterwards. It will only send the Numeron Call-In, and you can then not apply the effect later on from there. Because Numeron Call-In actually states if Numeron Network is in your field zone, which it will no longer be in there. So I'm pretty sure that will fizzle off a Ghost Ogre. One that will definitely work is Ash Blossom. Because you're sending Numeron Call-In from the deck to the graveyard, it does get Ash Blossomed, which is very, very important. And that will stop it at that phase. After that phase, you're in a little bit more trouble, or you're going to have to wait it out a little bit more. So this is the perfect time to activate Ogre or Ash. If you don't get that moment in, or you don't open up either of them, the way the combo is going to continue is Call-In's going to go to the graveyard, and it is going to special summon up to 4. Now, keep in mind, if they do summon 4, they are going to be putting themselves directly into Nibiru territory once they summon ZEXAL. Now obviously what they would do is they would end their turn or end their main phase 2 and you would go Nibiru and clear this card off. Which is actually really good because you give them a token with pretty much 0. But most players are actually only going to summon 3 and go into the ZEXAL because that is the safer play if they don't have a natural out to Nibiru already built in. So that is your period to activate Nibiru, is once they make the 5th summon, but Nibiru in this example is actually less effective than all the other cards that I'm going to show you. So that's the Nibiru phase. After that, there is nothing more you can really activate during your opponent's turn. You can't really imperm during your opponent's turn because ZEXAL actually triggers during your turn, so that's something you need to do during the draw phase. So, what do you do during the draw phase? Well, during the draw phase, it is your turn priority. So, the first thing you're going to activate, as it is your turn priority, is Xyz Encore. Now, Xyz Encore was something that people were picking up once ZEXAL was in the Spiral matchup, because Spirals were actually able to make it, the Skorsten. So this one, you target one XYZ, face up XYZ monster your opponent controls that has XYZ materials, detach all XYZ's materials from it, and if you do, return it to the extra deck. Then if there is a monster card in the graveyard among those detached XYZ materials, special summon as many of those monsters as possible from the graveyard to your opponent's side of the field in face up defense position. The levels are reduced by 1, and cards and effects cannot be activated in response to this activation. That is why this comes before Imperm and the other cards that I'm going to show you, because you get turn player priority. This is the first thing you activate. So you go standby phase. You don't go standby phase anything from your opponent. You go standby phase, activate Xyz Encore. It is a quick effect. It has no restriction to be activated during a specific period. The opponent's ZEXAL cannot respond to it, and ZEXAL would then lose all of its materials, go back to the extra deck, and I'm not too sure if it brings back these, but even if it does, they all come in defense position, they're all 100 attack, you can clear them off, and you're not going to be locked out by ZEXAL. Now, one thing you've got to remember with Xyz Encore is this is probably going to be more of a side card coming in, so you're actually going to use this going second or going in game 2 rather than game 1, but some cards you might actually start to main are, of course, going to be Infinite Impermanence. So your opponent goes standby phase ZEXAL, you chain Infinite Impermanence, shut off the ZEXAL for the entire turn, as you saw in the opening skit. Obviously, Infinite Impermanence is a little bit more expensive. So, what budget options do you have for this? Of course, you have Forbidden Chalice. Again, this is a quick play, so your opponent can go shotgun, standby phase ZEXAL, you can go chain Forbidden Chalice, target a face-up monster on the field until the end phase, that target gains 400 attack, doesn't matter, but its effects are negated, which means you'll be able to play your deck all from the remaining 5 cards in your hand. Again, Chalice might be a side deck option, but it could be a nice alternative option to Infinite Impermanence if you are on a budget and you want to main it. But I think Ash Blossom is probably going to be your first portal call alongside Infinite Impermanence to have in your deck. If you don't have access to either of these, or if you want to make it more consistent, you go Ghost Ogre and you go Forbidden Chalice. And then for your side deck coming in, you put in your Xyz Encore and the final card of your Numeral Hunter. Now, your Numeral Hunter is only good going first, and you do put yourself at a little bit of a risk, because depending on what deck your opponent is playing, they might be able to back up the ZEXAL. But the one thing is they would have to clear this monster off of the board first, and then clear their own board in order to activate Numeral Network, because Numeral Calling requires you to have no monsters. So, Numeral Hunter, if this card is summoned, return all number XYZ monsters on the field to the extra deck, and neither player can special summon number XYZ monsters. Cannot be destroyed by battle with an XYZ monster. This card is unaffected by the effects of XYZ monsters. Now, obviously, its first effect of shuffling everything back is a little bit redundant, purely because the effects are going to be negated with ZEXAL. Now, obviously, it's a nice little combo if you are able to Chalice or Imperm it and then Numeral Hunter it, because you're then just going to go, cool, ZEXAL out my way. But the idea is you go first, you normal summon your Numeral Hunter, or if you're playing Pendulum, special summon it. And then while it is summoned, it will basically lock both players out from special summoning number XYZs, which means they cannot get the Numeron OTK on board, and they cannot get the ZEXAL lock on board as well. So just before I go and wrap this one up, I will kind of show you how the Numeron Network OTK works, just so you are aware of both going first and second. So now I'll show you the OTK combo and how you can kind of interrupt it and stop it. So it works the exact same way. Activate Numeron Network. Now, Ghost Ogre in this example is so much more effective because without Numeron Network, the OTK cannot be complete. So I'll show you exactly how this works. So at this point, Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre as usual. If not, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble purely because your opponent now no longer needs to go into a 5th summon. So they send the Numeron Call in, they summon out their 4, so they'll go with 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to put them in order just to sort out my OCD. There you go. So to bring out the 4 of these. Now, the way Numeral Network works is once per turn, Numeral XYZ monsters you control can activate the effects without detaching materials. Sorry, you can only activate the effect once per turn. Numeral XYZs in total you control can activate effects without detaching the materials. So, the way this works is Numeral Gate attacks. Now keep in mind, these all have to destroy a monster to get to activate its effect. So if it runs out of monsters to destroy, it's no longer going to be able to double. So it needs to exactly attack at least 3 monsters on your board. If you have 4, then you're not going to take much damage. You'll be absolutely fine. But the idea would be, Numeral 1 attacks with 1,000. Now, it can't be destroyed by battle, so it doesn't really matter. At the end of the damage state, it would soak up a bit of damage, use the effect, detach your material, which it doesn't need to because of network, and then this becomes 2k, 2k, 2k. Number 2 attacks. So 2k does whatever it needs to do, detach your material, makes this 4k, 4k. Attack for 4k, detach your material, make this 8k, swing 8k. You should be game by then. You've done a lot of damage, and then worst case scenario of that is if they do survive, you just go, boom. Now, obviously, they are now in Nibiru territory, but they've done a huge amount of damage, and they're going to try and clear you off. So, your best friends to stop the OTK is Ash and Ghost Ogre. Now, you can, if you really, really want to, you could save an Imperm, or you can save an XYZ Encore, or even a Chalice, to hit any of these, or any of the later ones. Because ideally, if it can't, even the first one, to be honest, because if you hit the first one, and its effects are negated, it can't detach to double the attack of all Numerons. So then you're going for 1k, 2k, 4k, which means they're not going to get the OTK off. But Ash and Ogre are going to be your best friends in order to stop the whole combo going itself, both first and second. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I hope this kind of puts your worries at ease, that ZEXAL is not as big of a threat as you might think it does. In your main deck, you have a possibility of at least what is currently being mained in main meta decks, 2 outs to it, not to mention whatever cards you might play for your natural deck itself. 3 if you include Nibiru and your opponent plays a little bit sloppy. Then if you could main into a Ghost Ogre, you can also main a Forbidden Chalice if you're massively worried about it, but you're definitely going to be able to side into a Numeral Hunter and an XYZ Encore. It really does depend on what your locals is like. So what I'm trying to say here is do not worry. ZEXAL is not as big of a threat as you may think, and the ban list is looming, so you need to worry more about the OTK than the ZEXAL itself. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as absolutely always, happy dueling. So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZW Games 5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below.